Jupiter is at opposition right now, and I thought it would be fun to look at images of the Jupiter that I've taken over the years with a handful of telescopes, including the ZWO Star S30, the small smart telescope. The scopes that we'll be looking at today are the Star S30, the ASCAR 71F, the MEADE ETX-90, the ASCAR 91F, the Celestron Nexstar 6SE, the Celestron Edge HD8, and the MEADE LX200, a 16-inch SCT. We'll first take a look at the Star S30. I've had this for a while. I love this thing. This has been going to almost every star party with me, and up until the S30 Pro got into my hands, I actually had this ready to go at any time on a tripod. I could just grab and go. And wait, this is the S30 Pro. Neither the S30 or the S30 Pro are planetary telescopes. They are excellent lunar, solar, and deep sky imaging telescopes. But when it comes to planets, the 30mm aperture, 150mm focal length, f5 ratio is not optimal. But you can play with the settings and try and get something decent, especially on Jupiter, and try and see if you can see some of the surface details. But this picture is not it. But it is really cool that you can see the Galilean moons. And Jupiter and Saturn are going to be the two planets that you have the best chances with of seeing something. And with Saturn, you'll be able to see the rings. Don't know if you'll be able to see the gap between the rings, especially now when the rings are edge on. But when it comes to Mars, Venus, any of the other planets, they're just going to look like tiny dots. But if the S30 or the S50 is all you have, definitely point them at planets and see what you can get. I do have videos on the S30 on this channel, so check those out, and a video on the S30 Pro is coming out really soon. Moving on to the ASCAR 71F. I've had this for a little while, and this is another favorite of mine. This has a 71mm aperture with a 490mm focal length, making it an f6.9. And this image of Jupiter was taken without any kind of Barlow or PowerMate, and this was taken with the iCam 464C that I have on long-term loan from Ioptron. This is a really nice planetary camera, although the sensor is a IMX 464. It's getting a little bit outdated with all the modern ones that are coming out, but this is still an excellent camera. It has great pixel size for planetary imaging, and I really do like it. And when we do some little bit of processing on this image of Jupiter, it's honestly more impressive than I expected it to be. Jupiter looks way better visually, and with more powerful eyepieces, you can get really great views of Jupiter and its Galilean moons through the ASCAR 71F. Small refractors may not be perfect for planetary, but they're pretty good. Moving on to the next telescope, you see this in almost all of my videos. It is my MEADE ETX-90 right here. This is behind me. I've had this for a long time. This has served me really well. It is a 90mm f13.8 Moxitov Cassegrain telescope. It has a focal length of 1250mm. You can see it has beautiful optics, and it is impressively sharp. And throughout the years, this has gone to star parties with me, and this is super lightweight, and it's actually become one of my really quick go-to visual telescopes if I just need to go to the backyard and look at the moon or Jupiter or something else, because I have this William Optics dovetail plate here, which has both Vixen and Arca Swiss, so I just flip it around, bolt it back in, and I can just put it on a regular tripod, and it works really well. Jupiter looks clear, and with a little bit of processing, it is really impressive. Visually, Jupiter is very crispy, especially when the weather cooperates. I know MEADE is out of business, but that doesn't mean that these just stop working. There's no software updates that we have to wait for these. And it doesn't mean that you can't find these online on used marketplaces such as Facebook Marketplace and on cloudy nights. And I do kind of want a bigger Moxitov telescope for planetary visuals and imaging. So if you have recommendations or suggestions that you like, let me know. All right, the next telescope is the ASCAR 91F. It's a little bit bigger. It has a 91mm aperture with a 609mm focal length, making it an f6.7. It is the bigger brother to the ASCAR 71F. It has become my main imaging telescope lately, and I didn't feel like unhooking everything for this segment of the video. It's much heavier, And with the increased aperture and the longer focal length, Jupiter looks much better through this. And this image was taken without a Barlow or a PowerMate, but I used the IMX571 camera instead of the iCam 464C, so the pixel scales aren't perfect with the 71F, but it still gives you a really nice idea of what Jupiter should look like through this. And visually, Jupiter looks better through the 91F than the 71F because of the increased aperture giving you better resolution and the increased focal length letting you get a little bit closer to Jupiter. But I think the ETX-90 behind me right there is still better for planets. It gives them much sharper details, and the difference of aperture is only a millimeter, although that does have a central obstruction, so that's something to keep in mind. But either way, the 91F, I like it for planets, but I really love it for deep space. The next scope on the list is my orange tube, the Star S30 SE. I've had this scope for 14 years now. It has treated me really well. It's a 6-inch aperture, or 150mm aperture, and a 1500mm focal length, making it an f10 telescope. This is great for planets. And I take this to just about every star party with me because it's great on the Moon, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, Saturn, double stars, some clusters, just great overall. And it's really light that I can actually install this on most of my lightweight mounts, so that makes it really, really handy. It is slightly faster than the ETX-90, but the bigger aperture gives it much better resolution, and the slightly more focal length lets us get a little bit closer to our objects. Now, when I usually image Jupiter, I usually use a Barlow or a PowerMate. In this case, here is my TeleVue 2.5x PowerMate. This is excellent. But I also have a TeleVue 3x Barlow that I've used for a long time, as well as this Celestron Omni 2x Barlow that I actually bought when I bought this thing about 14 years ago, and it works really well. And when we look at these images of Jupiter, we can see that Jupiter looks really nice, and just a little bit of processing, we can see some really nice details, and when I actually do some full processing, it looks really, really nice. Visually, when I take this to star parties and I show people Saturn, Jupiter, the Moon, their minds are usually blown just because of how good it looks. If you're in the Cambridge or Boston area and you attend a star party, there's a chance that I'm there with my orange tube. Next up is my Celestron Edge HD8. It's an 8-inch SCT with just over 2000mm focal length, also f10, and it's much heavier, so it doesn't really go to star parties with me. And it's an excellent planetary telescope. As I mentioned earlier, the weather and seeing conditions have been really bad here, but luckily I have some images from November 2025, just after the Saturn's opposition, and again from January 2025, just after the December 2024 Jupiter opposition. And when we look at those images, Jupiter looks pretty cool. Again, they were taken with my iCam 464C. Visually speaking, that telescope is an excellent telescope. Jupiter always looks good, even when the seeing conditions aren't great. And whenever I take that scope out, I make sure that I look through it as much as I can before I start imaging through it. And the last time I took it out, it was no different. And Jupiter, again, looked great. I do have some clear skies coming up, and I'm hoping to redo Jupiter if I can. This time I'm going to experiment with my DSLR. It's kind of going back to my heyday. Like I mentioned, I feel like I'm getting worse at planetary imaging and processing, and I used to do a lot of planetary imaging with a DSLR. And I think I'm going to go back to it and see what I can do. Lastly, we're going to talk about the MEADE LX200, a 16-inch observatory grade SCT. These photos are actually from late 2024 from the observatory at the Amateur Telescope Makers of Boston, which is my local astronomy club. And this video of Jupiter is from late 2024 or early 2025. And I planned on going back this year to take more images through that telescope, but unfortunately some rats, or mice, got into the observatory and chewed through some of the cables. And as we know, MEADE is out of business, so that telescope has been out of commission for a while. But luckily, I very recently heard that some of the members were able to source some cables and the telescope may be operational. But due to weather and timing, I don't know when I'll be able to go back and use this. So for now, I am just saying that this planet season is not going to see any use of that telescope. Sad, but I'm hoping next year it's up and running still, and I can go and take some images of Saturn, Jupiter, and maybe some other planets. With an aperture of 16 inches and a focal length of over 4,000 millimeters without a Barlow or PowerMate, you get really close to the planets and you get amazing resolution. And then this final image was again taken with the iCam 464C. So an honorary mention to my 10-inch Dob that I acquired last year. I co-own it with my friend Nathan, who's actually working on acquiring a new base for it, which it needs, so it's currently out of commission. But I'm hoping that within the next month or so, while Jupiter's still big and bright in the sky, we have a new base, and I can go over to his house, put a camera in there, and take some images of Jupiter. It won't be tracked, so it'll be lucky imaging as we see Jupiter go across the sky, but it'll be fun. I'd love to hear about the telescopes you have, if you do any kind of planetary imaging or planetary viewing, or if you want to get into it, if you have tips to share with other people, tips to share with me who's reverting back to not knowing how to image and process planets. I would love to hear from you. And a huge thanks to all of my patrons on Patreon, my supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, and YouTube members for supporting me and my ventures. If you'd like to join this list of wonderful people, please check the links in the description and the pinned comments below. And I don't need another telescope, but I am going to go looking for an idea of what other Moxitov gas screens are out there on Cloudy Nights Classifieds. If you have a suggestion, I'd love to hear it. And until next time, happy planet gazing, happy stargazing, happy new year, and clear skies.